and welcome to the latest in our Conversations with Mums series. I'm so happy to welcome Shawnee Thornton Hardy, who is a yoga therapist who focuses on working with children and teens with autism and other complex needs. She's a certified yoga therapist, an education and behavior consultant. She has a master's in education as well as being an experienced yoga teacher and registered children's yoga teacher and a somatic experiencing practitioner through the Trauma Institute. Shawnee is the founder of Asanas for Autism and Special Needs and is the founder and director of Yoga Therapy for Youth certification program. She's worked with children and adults with autism and individuals with diverse needs for over 3 decades. She's specialized in working with children and adults with significant cognitive and language delays, sensory processing challenges, significant behavioral challenges, and trauma histories. She's the author of two wonderful books, which I have here. Asanas for Autism. Hopefully you can see that. I think maybe it's a bit blurry. Asana for Autism and Special Needs, and Yoga Therapy for Children and Teens with Complex Needs. Both wonderful books and well worth reading. She's also the creator of the Calm Yoga Toolkit, and she has a yoga school that trains others in yoga approaches to support children and adults with diverse needs and backgrounds, and she trains globally. She has a grown daughter who's now 22 and she lives in San Diego, California. She's also the founder, one of the founding members of the Women's Writers Collective in Yoga Therapy, and I'm honored to know her through that. And Shawnee, thank you so much for coming and chatting to us today. Really appreciate your time and your wisdom. I know a little bit of the inspiring story that um, led you to yoga, that got you into the work that you do. Would you mind starting by sharing some of that story with us?
Sure. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great.
Okay, wonderful. I heard a little beep in my AirPod. Thank you so much, Alice, for that introduction, and for inviting me to share. I always feel so grateful whenever I get the space to to share and to speak of my heart's work and to connect with colleagues in this way. So, a little background of how I came to yoga, or yoga came to me, yoga found me rather. Um, I had really been on this path of wanting to support children, teens, adults with diverse needs. I really started my path and journey of working with diverse populations when I was age 17, working in Boston as a preschool assistant. And one young boy being in that program that I really bonded with, and he had some really quirky ways of being in the world. And we developed this strong relationship, and I wanted to learn ways to support him. And so I was on this path of learning about how to support young people with diverse needs for quite some time. It's been my passion. I always knew I wanted to work with children. Um, and I found myself in San Diego. I moved here in 1999 and I got a job as a special education teacher. And I was working in a non-public school. Most challenging behaviors. The kids that were in that program were basically bussed in from other schools because they had higher needs and weren't able to be supported in their community schools. And at the time, um, I was a new mom. I was struggling with significant anxiety. I was struggling with significant back pain. I had just been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and things were just falling apart for me. I was just in this place of overwhelm and not really knowing what to do. And I went to a chiropractor for my back, and she said, you know, you should try yoga. And that was sort of my foot in. I took that advice and I just sort of went full fledged ahead. And my first yoga class I took, I just cried and cried and cried and had this release of so much emotion. And for the first time, felt a connection to my body. And so that was so profound, that experience, that it took me on this journey of wanting to become a yoga teacher, and then wanting to really dive into understanding yoga on a deeper layer, learning more about therapeutic yoga. At the time, I was then working in a new program, an educational behavioral program. I had been asked to develop a behavior program for young people to keep them in their community school. So to keep them in their community rather than sending them to a non-public school. And the intention was to help support them with developing skills to be able to be integrated into their typical classrooms, more of an integrated approach. And so I was on this path of practicing yoga, seeing the tremendous benefits that it was having for me and in my life. And then I was also really curious about how to integrate this into my programming. I thought, wow, this is so supportive to me. It's helping me with my lifelong anxiety of experience. It's helping me to connect to my body more. I feel like I'm more present. I feel like I am beginning to start to have a sense of boundary in my own life. And I thought, well, how would this be with the young people that I'm working with? And their struggles were, uh, many of them had sensory processing challenges, really sensitive to the outside world. They struggled with language and communication. They struggled with self-regulation, just feeling so many sensations and emotions in their bodies and not really knowing what to do with that. Um, Difficulty with focus and difficulty with regulation, really, like learning how to regulate. And when I speak of regulation, it's not just regulating our emotions, it's also regulating our arousal states. It's regulating our bodies in a way that we can tune into our needs and know how to adjust or how to take care of ourselves. And so there's, many layers to self-regulation, not just regulating emotions. So I started to integrate the practices into my programming. And, what I learned was yoga for adults. It wasn't yoga for kids, and it wasn't yoga for kids with diverse needs. And so there was a lot of curiosity I had to bring to that. There was a lot of, um, like really figuring out ways to adapt or modify those strategies and tools to fit the needs of the young people that I was working with. And I just really loved it. I had a great time with it. I feel like that really brought creativity out in me. And as I started to integrate that into the programming, I was getting my master's in special education. And my thesis project was on yoga, for attention and on task behavior for children with autism and ADHD. So I was really paying attention to, are these practices and tools really effective? And the answer to that was a resounding yes. And the response I got from the young people, they were asking for yoga. They were going home and drawing pictures of them doing yoga. They were sharing with their parents and caregivers about yoga. And I was noticing a difference and a shift in their so many things, in their communication, in their socialization, in their ability to regulate. So that's really like the journey that happened. It was very like synchronistic in the sense that it just all came together in that way. And that is what inspired me to write my first book on asanas for autism and special needs. That book is like a kind of like what I want to say, it was created for parents, educators, anyone that works with young people with diverse needs. Autism and special needs was the language we used at that time. Um, and it was like a handbook. Here's some practices and things that you can do to integrate into whatever setting you're in to support young people with more holistic practices, right? I mean, we and if you work with young people with diverse needs, you know that you pull from many different, you know, disciplines. You pull from many different therapies. You pull from many different layers. And I wanted this to be something that would also be a practice or tool to support not only the children, young people, but the parents and the caregivers as well.
Yeah, it sounds amazing work and very innovative, as you say. Just to be, we tend to get trained to be yoga teachers of adults, and then, to have to then, it sounds like you've really weaved in all the different elements of your experience, both personal and professional, to be able to be completely present for this work and this population. Um, it's really inspiring to hear some of the impacts that it can have with these children. It would be lovely, I think, just to hear a little bit more about a couple of case study examples, that you can, without sort of sharing any confidential information, but just to give people a flavor of how yoga can help. Because I think for most people, they think about yoga as just asana, like the physical poses, and they may
Mm.
not really understand completely what the potential of yoga therapy is.
Yeah, yes. So important. I mean, we know that the deeper foundation of yoga is, asana is only one of the limbs of yoga. And so truly, when I was integrating yoga into the program, there were so many layers of how do we take care of ourselves? How do we take care of others? How do our behaviors impact, others in relationship? Why our voice is so important, and that, I would always say to young people, you have important things to say, or you have important things to share. Um, and the deepest foundation of the work is like helping build self-awareness and self-regulation so that young people can go out into the world and feel a sense of confidence, a sense of ease, and a sense of like taking up space in the world. And my work with children and teens and young adults with diverse needs over the years is that that sense of confidence, that sense of like truly experiencing self-acceptance, that can be a big challenge. And because these young people oftentimes are made to feel like they're broken and they need to be fixed, that can really create an experience of them struggling with accepting their authentic self and loving their authentic self. And so the deeper layer was really helping young people shine their inner lights. And if you see my logo, it's a child standing in star pose and just beams of sunlight coming from them. And so that was the heart intention of bringing the practices. Of course, the benefits of self-regulation and maybe increased communication and socialization, those all came forward. But truly, the intention is to help them really feel a sense of belonging in the world. And so I'll give a couple of examples. One is, you know, these are I have so many stories. I mean, I could tell so many stories of the ways that I've seen transformation, but I'll share about a young boy in my program years ago who was autistic and really, really struggled with expressing himself and like taking up space in the world. Was very quiet, very timid, spoke really quietly with a whisper in his voice. And, he had other mobility challenges. Oftentimes with autism, there can be challenges with, movement and coordination and, all of those things. So in my program, I integrated yoga every day throughout the day. We started the morning off with checking in and seeing what am I noticing? How am I feeling today? Choosing practices to support that. And then we actually practice all day throughout the day. We took little mini yoga breaks throughout the day. So it was integrated fully into my programming. And this young man just loved yoga. And I had created a pose or practice called apple picking, where you reach across the body, you breathe in. Let's do it together, maybe. Inhale and reach over. Exhale, pick your apple, and then you drop it in the bucket. Then we could do the other side. Inhale, reach over. Exhale, pick your apple, drop it in the bucket. Now, this is crossing midline that helps with the right and left hemisphere of the brain to communicate. We're doing breathing that helps us to connect to our breath. And he loved apple picking. And so I started letting the young people in my program be yoga teachers. And every morning they would come in and they would get a turn to choose a yoga pose and teach it to their peers. And this young man, at the start, I would have never guessed that he would be a person that would stand up in front of his peers and speak in front of them and teach a yoga pose. But he became so confident the more he practiced, the more that he taught. And he did have some language difficulties in terms of his expressive language. But we as a community, we developed this beautiful patience for each other and this beautiful willingness to allow each person to have a voice and to teach in their own unique way. And I noticed over time that his voice started to get like this, teaching apple picking, and he just took up more space with his voice, with his body, with his energy. He developed a sense of confidence, and that had a ripple effect outside of teaching yoga, actually in the classroom and with his peers. So that's just one example of how something simple, just as simple as apple picking, yes, it helps with brain integration. Yes, it helps with connecting to the breath, but there was a deeper sense of his inner light being able to shine and him being able to take up more space in the world.
Yeah, that's
So
beautiful.
yeah, that's one that just like comes to mind right off the bat in how not only is it the physical practice, but the deeper layers of and the deeper philosophy of yoga.
Yeah, and we talk about the koshas all the time in yoga therapy, don't we? And how yoga really, we're looking in a holistic lens and we're looking at helping the individual come to that state of more ease, not only physically, but energetically, emotionally and spiritually. So yeah, that was a lovely, lovely example of that. Thank you.
Yeah, and also when you look at young people who might struggle with communication, breath practices are so powerful, and bilateral movement and all of these different practices are really powerful for the brain and help support language and communication. And so not only do we have the deeper layers that we're moving through those, the mental, physical, emotional, wisdom, body, spiritual, but we also have the for me, I am really interested in also understanding neuroscience and what's happening in the brain and body and the sensory system when we do these different practices. So at the time, I was really deep into learning more about sensory processing and sensory integration. And even thinking about sensory processing and sensory integration, we're going into some of those deeper layers in the kosha layers, into more of that sensing, feeling, energetic body even. And so, um, you know, that's been an amazing process for me as well to not only bring in the therapeutic lens and the yoga therapy and the koshas, but also the neuroscience around it.
Yeah. No, that sounds like a perfect blending of both, the ancient Vedic teachings and Western science, which I think, yoga therapy really is like exploring in a lot of depth right now, which is very exciting. Um,
Mhm.
these series are really looking at how mums face different challenges and how we navigate both the joys of motherhood, but also some of the more challenging parts of motherhood too. I'm sure you work with a lot of parents as part of your work and have a lot of connections. It'd be great to hear more about how what you observe in terms of the impacts on mothers when they are supporting a child with complex needs.
Yeah, yeah. Well, first I'll name you named I am a mother. Actually, my daughter's 24. Um, and so I come from a lens of being a mom, which I think is really important to come from that place of understanding. And when you have the lived experience of that, it's like you have this resonant understanding of what it's like to be a mom and all of the beautiful experiences and challenges that come with that role, right? And so I have done a lot of work with parents over the years. I started off kind of, as a special education teacher, you're working a lot with parents, and you're collaborating with them to develop goals for their child, and there's a lot of communication with parents. And I really, over the years, um, really got to see the highest of high points of the experience of parenting children with diverse needs, and the lowest of low, just meaning the fear and the guilt and the shame and the worry, is my child going to succeed in the world? And so I have been in the thick with parents, for almost 3 decades of seeing the experience of what it's like to parent a child with diverse needs. And is saying, I'm a highly sensitive mama and I have a highly sensitive child. And so when we talk about diverse needs, it's like it could be that your child is, autistic, or they have a specific diagnosis of ADHD or a learning difference. It could be that they have sensory processing differences. It could be that they have some mental health challenges. It could be that they're a highly sensitive child that takes the world in a different way. And so when I come from that lens of, like, first of all, being a mom, my lens is always coming from a place of compassion and trying to support mothers with connecting with that. Compassion is the word that's just at the forefront whenever I'm working with parents. Where I'm at now in my work is I work in more one-to-one therapeutic, integrating yoga therapy, somatic experiencing, somatic touch. I bring a lot of different lenses into my work with kids, teens, young adults. And I work directly with parents. So if I'm working with a child or teen, the parent has to be involved in some way, whether that's through consultation or whether we're working together. I'm seeing the parent and then I'm seeing the child, which has been amazing because it really has helped me to see how much our nervous system and our sort of stories, samskaras that we have within ourselves, um, can directly impact our child, or how our child's stories can directly impact us. And we were sort of talking off camera a little bit about this experience of merging, that when we're a parent, and moms, I just find like moms have the weight of the world on their shoulders, and they feel responsible for everyone and everything. And in this time that we live in, it's like many moms have to have full-time jobs and also parent, which is also a full-time job, right? It's like you never clock out of mothering. It's 24/7. And so I see just a lot of like overwhelm and feeling of like, such responsibility. And also, there's so much information out there in the world right now. It's like just coming at you everywhere. Do this, do that. Your child needs this. Your child needs that. This is the right way. This is the wrong way. I feel like mothers are just overwhelmed. There's like information overload. And so, what I often see with the moms that I've worked with over the years and even currently is that um, there's so much fear and there's so much living in the future. So compassion and presence, those are the two words that, are really like the primary things that I bring forward in working with moms, is helping them to, in their own systems, sense into the present. Because when we come into the present moment, um, we're not in that in the future of that anxiety of how are things going to be in the future. It's just sort of like checking in the moment and saying, how do I know I'm okay right now and that my child is okay right now? And I might just invite a pause. Anyone who's listening, I might invite just looking around, noticing where you are right now, taking in the chair underneath you, feeling the support there, maybe feeling your feet on the ground, and just pausing and even saying these words, I'm okay right now. My child is okay right now. It doesn't mean an okay just means okay. It's like, so part of it is helping to recognize that um, the fear is taking you into the future. When we can come back into the present, it can help our system to sense, oh, yeah, those are the worries about the future, but right now I'm okay and my child is okay. So I use those words, I'm okay right now. I don't say I'm safe right now or I'm great right now because that may not be the experience. And for a child, or for a parent who has a child with diverse needs, it's like that might be those experiences of joy and those experiences of feeling a sense of safety really might be difficult to access. So helping parents, moms, to just come into the present and come into any way that they can sense support. And that's just noticing, can you feel the ground beneath your feet? Can you feel your seat underneath your sitting bones? If you lean back into your chair, can you feel that support? And so that's really what I emphasize, is helping experience a felt sense of embodiment and a felt sense of support. Uh, because moms with, kids with diverse needs, it's like that is one of the challenges, is the feeling of I don't have any support. I have to do this all alone. And so inviting resources, if you don't have support within your family system, or you don't have support, you're not feeling like the school is supporting you. Can you sense the support of your chair? Can you sense the support of Mother Earth, our great mother who's holding us? And bringing attention to these elements of like support, because that's truly what moms need more than anything. And there used to be a time where, as mothers, we gathered in circles and we took care of each other's babies and we were community focused. And now it's so different. Moms feel so alone and isolated.
And almost a sense of shame sometimes for feeling like you might need that support and like you
Mm.
can't ask for it or reach out. And that just makes it the whole thing feel even worse. So not only do you feel isolated, worried, like overwhelmed, you also feel, as you say, alone and shameful for feeling that way. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah. And
and
that's something I'm still working on. I mean, it's hard for me to ask for help because, I've just done it my whole life by myself. And, if you've had the experience as a child, even, and so much of my work is working with the inner child within us. If you as a child were like wanted support, but nobody showed up for you, it's like as a mom, it's like, I'm just going to do it all by myself because I don't want to be disappointed. If I ask someone to help me and no one shows up for me, it's just going to cause that hurt again. And so it's also working with those stories and that inner child that's saying, I don't want to be hurt. I need to protect. And, finding ways to really help the mom feel a felt sense of support. And that's why, like, the work of being a yoga therapist or, a somatic experiencing practitioner, the work that I do is so profoundly important, because you could be that person that could show up for that mom or that child for the first time in their life. And not only that you show up, but they feel it and sense it in an embodied way. And when you feel and sense being supported in an embodied way, it is profoundly healing. So, this work to me, like being a yoga therapist, being a somatic experiencing, working with parents, working with children, teens, young adults, whatever age, it doesn't matter. I always go back to the embodied and felt sense of really feeling like someone is there for you. Someone's got your back and that you're being supported. And it's like I think about it's like the burden of holding everything up by yourself, and then somebody becomes behind and just takes their hands on your back and says, I got your back. And the relief that can come from that. And it might even just be that you get to go and share all the things that you're feeling without judgment. That I'm angry at my child. I feel so much anger, and you're like, yeah, your anger is important. How would it be to just let yourself feel that anger and know that there's no judgment. We know you love your child, and also it's okay for you to feel anger. Or, I feel helpless. I feel like I can't do anything. Well, how is it to just acknowledge that that's how you're feeling? And so a lot of it is just about the acknowledgement. A lot of it is just about letting parents know you're not trying to fix anything for them either, but that you're there just listening and supporting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that just moving away from judgment and accepting
Hmm.
that we will feel the whole range of human emotions is really powerful, and that is normal and it's right. There's nothing shameful about it. That is such
Hmm.
a gift just to realize that, isn't it? And to know that we're going to hold in motherhood these contradictory emotions sometimes. And
Yeah.
that there's nothing wrong with us, and we don't need
Yeah.
yeah we don't need to sort of run away from it, and yoga helps us be present with that and notice it. I think a lot of the time
Yeah.
people don't even, they're so stressed out they don't even notice what they're feeling, and let alone, and if you don't notice you can't move through it. So
Yeah, and just speaking to like anger for women in society, it's like anger is not okay for us to express or feel.
yeah.
And so it's like this is something that I find, in my work is that, and in my own experience, because I was never safe for me to express anger or be around anger. And so anger was just like bad, bad, bad. I got to stuff that down, got to stuff it down, got to stuff it down. I need to be just Miss Nice and understanding all the time, which is, I am a kind person, but also where is that anger going? And so I do a lot of work with women. I work mostly with kids, teens, and women. And we work a lot with healthy aggression. We work a lot with feeling the anger and allowing the anger and even moving the anger through in some way and connecting to this sense of power because anger is life force energy. Anger is an expression of boundary. And so when mothers can be in a space where they can really speak to that and they can really feel it and they can really like move it in some way, that allows them to have more patience with their children. It allows them to have more compassion for their children. And anger turned inward can become all kinds of physical manifestations. And I know for myself, autoimmune has been something that has been part of my life. Many different autoimmune diagnoses, and it makes sense to me because it's like all of that anger, and it was righteous anger in many ways. And even anger towards your child is like, yeah, sometimes, man, your kids just like push those buttons, and just to stuff it all down and not let yourself really feel it, that's going to manifest in the physical body in some way.
Yeah. And there's a big difference between feeling it and expressing it in a healthy way, which yoga helps us to do, as opposed to when
Hmm.
we don't feel it, potentially it can like come out in ways which are damaging for us, our relationships, our children, potentially even our children. So,
Yes.
it's we're not doing ourselves or anyone else a favor by stuffing it down. It
Hmm.
it's not doesn't just disappear unless we kind of bring our awareness to it, does it? But I mean, I think there's so much to be righteously angry about too, It's navigating, um, accessing support for your child when it is sort of out of the mainstream is difficult. And,
Yeah.
you I think there's a tension between acceptance of the situation and feeling ease within the situation you're in, and also having to be forced into a situation where you're constantly advocating to get your child the resources and support that they need. And I know from
Yes.
my work with mums that that's often, you know, a really challenging area for them. Like, how do they keep their compassion, their acceptance, their gratitude,
Mhm.
and all of those things whilst coming up against a brick wall in terms of getting the resources they need. So, any
Yeah.
any thoughts on that from your perspective, like how to navigate that with some more
Yeah.
ease?
Well, the language both and comes to mind. And that means that you can hold both the um, anger and frustration of what you're going against, and you can also hold acceptance. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah,
And when we allow ourselves as mothers to um, you know sense into our own sense of power and connect to this sort of the way that I think about it is like, and it comes up in different imagery with women. Sometimes we bring in imagery of like, how do you sense that power? Is there an image? Where does it land in your body when we can start to access this more internal stability and strength that's already there? But life pulls us away from connecting to that. Our own experiences as children may have given us a different story. We may have had experiences as young women or you know, uh, mothers or whatever that sort of pulled us away from this sense of like there is strength inside of me. Um, that connecting to that in a deeper way, in a grounded way, like really being able to access this like mama bear energy, and as we were saying, but in a healthy way, and I call it like healthy aggression, right? Like you can take that sense of power and empowerment, and through yoga postures and breath, we can really, really explore this in our bodies and really help to feel the feeling of that. But we want advocacy to come from a grounded place rather than an angry place. And so when it comes from an angry place, oftentimes it doesn't work well for us. We have people resist, or others who are not wanting to support because there's so much anger going towards those people that need to be the ones to support us. And so, coming from a grounded place, coming from a place of like strength in advocacy, and then also being able to be present with the moment and find acceptance in whatever is, right? It's like the letting go of the outcome.
yeah,
I can be strong in my advocacy. I can be strong in my voice. I can stand up for my child. I can speak up for them. I can ask for all the things that are needed. And, moms with children with diverse needs, they just learn this by just getting thrown to the wolves. It's like, you have to fight for your child in the system that we were in. And I was in the system, and I know the fight that parents have to put forward for their children, especially in the education system. That's why I got out of the education system, because I was so frustrated with the struggle that parents went through to find the right resources and supports for their children. And so, you know, moms learn like how to be fierce advocates. I had to learn how to be a fierce advocate. And, my work is like working with my people pleasing, my masking, my um, giving power to others, which has been a lifelong thing. And when I became a mom, it was like, oh, I gotta just like be mama bear and stand up for my baby. And that just comes naturally because we're mama bears. I think about nature, and I think about the ways that the mothers defend their babies. Like, I mean, I just had a mama hummingbird have two baby hummingbirds, and I watched from them, her making the nest all the way to them fledging the nest. And I watched this mama hummingbird and her fierceness and her intent to like help her babies survive and thrive. And I mean, it was so powerful to witness that. And when I witnessed that in nature, I'm like, that's us. We are those mama bears. Um, and so there's that piece of like, I can stand up for my child, I can advocate for them. And then also the piece of, and we can't give from an empty cup.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing to take care of yourself?
Yeah.
What are you doing to recover and restore? How are you coming back to this place of stability and this sort of place of centeredness for yourself when you're out there in the battlegrounds, right? Like we need to recover, we need to restore in some way. And I think when we take care of ourselves, that allows us to have more acceptance.
Definitely. Well, we're able to just have a broader perspective, aren't we? Because we're not
Hmm.
so much in that fight and flight response as we are
Yeah.
when we're completely, when we're not looking after ourselves. We are
Yeah.
just coping and just dealing with the next thing or worrying about the thing in the future.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're in that just either you're in this sort of tunnel vision of like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared about what's going to be in the future for my child, or you're in this sort of like all around, just like no ability to focus, just chaos.
yeah,
And when we do these practices, it brings us to a place of presence, a place of centeredness. It helps us to tap into our own intuition as mothers that the intuition of mothers is the most powerful thing on the planet. We have so much power in our intuition. And when we take time to slow down and we take time to really connect more deeply with ourselves, it's like when we can sense into intuition, it can resolve some of the fear.
yeah. Which comes, I think, around to trust. So, like
Hmm.
trust in ourselves, trust in our kids. Um,
Yes. Yes.
it's
Yeah.
when we're
I
stuck in
actually,
that place of worry, it's really hard for us to trust either ourselves or our kids.
yeah, I actually have a practice that that I explore around compassion and trust, and it's something I'll share. But let me know timing wise. I can share that towards the end because truly, that is the essence of navigating motherhood is um, how can I have compassion for myself? How can I have compassion for my children or child? How can I trust in myself? How can I trust in my child?
Yeah,
And those are like so critically important in navigating because parenting again is it never ends. I mean, I have a 24-year-old and I'm still working with and we are tethered, like she moved away. She lives in Virginia now and but you know, she's still there with me all the time. And so I'm still always coming back to this reminder of trusting in myself and trusting in her. And not going back to that sort of like again, like the fear place that just says she's not going to be okay, I'm not going to be okay, we're not going to be okay, right? It's like all of the catastrophic things that you can imagine that could happen. And those all come from our own lived experience, traumas, losses, griefs, our own inner child stories that we have, right? And so I think it's a lifelong practice as a mom to continue to work with that. But yeah, when we can integrate these practices, and it doesn't have to be perfect. This is one thing that just like I say to parents is our children don't need us to be perfect.
no,
What our children need most from us is for us to be present
yeah,
and for us to be able to truly listen from a place of true presence versus a place of fear or a place of our own dysregulation. right? And we don't have to be perfect at it. We just keep coming back to it, and we just keep trying, and we keep doing our best. And, that's the most important thing, that we think as moms that we have to be perfect. We think as moms that we have to present as I got it all together. And when we can let our children have a glimpse into, I'm not perfect, but I'm here for you, I'm present, I got your back, then things shift when they really feel that and sense that. And so it's just giving ourselves permission as moms that we don't have to be perfect, that it's okay for us to make mistakes.
Yeah, and what came up for me when you were talking was the idea of unconditional love, really, and feeling worthy of it. I think sometimes when we feel we have to be perfect, there's some underlying feeling of maybe not feeling good enough or not feeling worthy of love at some deep level.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when we can feel worthy of love and feel worthy of care, then we're also modeling that for our children. Because really, more than anything, I'd suggest what we want for our children is to feel worthy of love and
Mm,
and just to know that deep, deep in their souls.
yes. Yeah, that is the heart of yoga, isn't it?
Yeah.
That
And
we,
motherhood, I think.
and motherhood, yoga and motherhood, the combination, which I love that this is your work that you do, Alice, because, um, you know, we need more of this. We need more support for moms that comes from a lens of non-judgment, but also brings in embodiment and developing that sense of love and compassion for oneself. Um, and yes, as we practice that in our own lives, in our own, selves, in our own hearts, that is a modeling for our children, for them to do the same. And it's to know that we are lovable even though when we make mistakes.
Yeah, indeed.
And we're going to make mistakes. We're going to make a lot of mistakes as parents.
We do indeed. Uh, I feel this would be a lovely time to have your closing practice, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah, wonderful. So, um, one of the things that I work with often with moms, is helping them to kind of feel into a sense of boundary. Um, I know for myself, as a highly sensitive mom and as a very strong empath, that, um, probably the biggest challenge for me in being a mom to a young person who's also highly sensitive is the merging. And when we merge, it's like we take on the struggle of the other person in such a way that it's like, it's my responsibility to fix this and make it all better. And I often talk with moms that when we merge with our child, we don't allow them to be their own individual self. We don't allow them to develop a sense of trust and confidence that they can do it. And this is really important in parenting, that we can pull back a little bit and we can give space for our child to actually mu kind of like, you know, go through the muck a little bit. I have found over the time of, like, from when I first became a parent, which was, 24 years ago, till now, that it's like parents are being told that you got to just like fix everything for your child. And um, it's important to be an advocate and also help your child feel into their own strength and their own inner trust. So this is a practice where helping moms to come back into themselves and feel into their boundary, and to see their child as being their own unique person, and then this, building this sense of trust and compassion. Okay, so we'll just take a moment to, get comfortable in your seat. If you have, sorry, my AirPods. you have something that has a back to it, that would be great. If not, it's okay. You can just imagine. But first, I'll just take a moment to invite feeling your connection to support. So if you're sitting in a chair, you might sense feeling of support of your feet on the ground. You might notice the support of the chair beneath your seat. You might notice the support behind your back body, and just taking a moment to feel that in a physical way. Mm. And I'm going to invite just kind of leaning back just a little bit, like imagining that as you draw yourself back, you're drawing your energy just back into yourself. And I might invite just bringing awareness to your spine from the tailbone all the way up to the crown of the head, just feeling this sort of midline, this center of yourself. And it could even come up as an image. And then I'll invite taking the hands to your shoulders and just kind of squeezing your shoulders and feeling your edges a little bit. And as you do this, you can say, "These are my edges." And you could take your hand just kind of to the front body and press in and say, "These are my edges." Maybe press onto your thighs. "These are my edges." And just feeling into your edges. Where does your body end? Like our skin is such a great boundary. And just taking a moment to really feel your edges. Now I'll invite imagining your child in front of you or children and seeing them as separate from you. And just imagining that they're in themselves, that they have this sense of, yeah, these are my edges. And as you feel into your edges and as you see your child or your children in front of you, you might say these words: "This is my child," or "These are my children. We are connected, but not the same." Feel the connection, but also feel the differentiation of you, yourself, and them, themselves as separate human beings. And I might invite you to just think of some of the strengths of your child. What are the strengths that they have within themselves that are unique to them? And then I'll invite just taking a hand to your belly, a hand to your heart, feeling your edges and saying these words out loud or to yourself: "I'm doing the best I can." And just feel that. And now an invitation to see your child in your mind's eye. And as you look at your child, saying these words to yourself or out loud: "You're doing the best you can." And just taking a moment to pause and see if you can let yourself just connect to compassion, compassion for yourself, compassion for your child. I just take a just gentle breath in, and if it feels like you want to just open your mouth and just let a sigh or something come out, just kind of releasing anything that might have come up in that moment. There might be some internal feelings or sensations that arise. And then bringing your attention back to your feet, your seat, just kind of grounding back into the present moment. And if your eyes were closed, I would just invite gently letting your eyes open, just taking a moment to notice.
Thank you, Shawnee. That was lovely.
Yeah, you're
Very
so welcome.
powerful, powerful
Mm,
practice.
mm, mm.
And Thank you so much for all your wisdom. I'm sure we could talk for a lot longer about this topic, but
Yeah.
it would be good to just end with some guidance for people if they were interested in working with you, either for themselves or with
hmm
their child. What's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. So they can reach me on my website. Best way to reach me through my work is asanas for autism and special needs.com, where I have all of my resources, my books. Also have lots of other wonderful resources for bringing these practices to neurodivergent individuals. And you can always reach out to me through my website. Mostly what I do now is I teach educators, therapists, parents these tools and practices to bring them into their community. And so, if you're a parent and you want to support your child, but you also want to support other parents, that's a lot of the work that I do is just sort of spreading knowledge and tools to actually bring this further into the community. So, teaching teachers in a sense. And there's a lot of work with our own inner child that I do in my trainings and workshops and things. So I'm always inviting us to connect to our own inner child because our own healing of our inner child is powerful in this work as parents and bringing these tools to our community. So yeah, just anytime feel free to reach out and thank you so much, Alice, for inviting me to be here with you and to get to share and super grateful to get a chance to chat with you.
And thank you, Shawnee, for your time, your wisdom, and for the incredibly important work that you do.
Mm,
So
thank
nice
you.
to spend time with you.